This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's worst 250 movies so you don't have to.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
I'm Abigail Ward.
And this week we watched Kangaroo Jack. Two childhood friends, a New York hairstylist and a would-be musician, get caught up with the mob and are forced to deliver $50,000 to Australia, but things go haywire when the money is lost to a wild kangaroo. Let's watch. I bought a new TV and I just have spent a lot of time going, why did I do that?
Yeah, what was the manic process behind it?
Okay, so...
Are you prone to fits of manic purchases?
I mean, quite literally, I have bipolar type 2. And there was a lot of time where I was like, is this crazy, Michelle? Or is this a good idea?
Or is this girl boss, Michelle?
The
two modes.
Because I definitely bought it and immediately was like, why did I do that? And then there was also the thought of like, during a global pandemic, some people can't eat. I also have had times literally within a month ago of like, how am I going to pay rent?
Yeah.
Is buying a TV kind of evil?
And that's the question we wanted to pose to you guys listening today. Email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com if you think that buying a TV is evil.
It's just me like looking up TVs and then looking at the news and it'll be like, local fascist blocks climate change. And I'm like, I feel kind of evil buying this TV.
You're not. I'm putting my foot down. That's fucked. As a result of like billion-dollar corporations fucking up the environment, you're not allowed to purchase nice things for yourself to cope. We spent all of last episode talking about how movies are an escape.
That's true.
You want to escape in the best definition, best Dolby sound. Dolby sound. Atmosphere there is. I love technology. I love words.
To run you through the process.
Sounds.
Because this is a tale. I'll try to make it brief, but maybe this will just be the whole opening. This is a tale of how Michelle was wrong.
And how Michelle was evil. Evil wrong woman.
Evil wrong woman.
That's the promise. That's the sequel to Promising Young Woman is Evil Wrong Woman.
I mean, spoilers of the arc. It's like evil wrong woman starts to make good.
Oh.
Because I really, really loved physical media for a long time. I was like, hell yeah, gonna collect, get all of it. Blu-rays are better than streaming. They are. And then I just like, I got really fucked off with optical discs, like Blu-rays and DVDs. My sister would always scratch DVDs. She would manage to scratch Blu-rays. My PS3 had disc reading issues. My PS4 would constantly eject discs. So then drew up a plan of how to rip and transcode every single one of my movies, which at that time was about, I think, 450 discs. And it took a lot of unpaid hours and then became fully adamant about it being all digital, but best quality possible. And it's been like all digital for a long time. Me being like, yeah, I still collect books and vinyl, but like optical discs suck. Oh, boo. Terrible. Blah. And then they did a restoration, like a new grade and a remaster of Lord of the Rings for the recent 4K release. I crunched it down to 1080 and we watched it and I was like, this is stunning. And it is a quarter of the resolution without the HDR.
Yeah.
Which the color has always been more important to me than the resolution. Like 4K 5 years ago was fucking nothing. 4K now means a whole bunch of different things about color and light. And I was like, I'm doing a disservice and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I was like, I'm going to fucking hard pivot back into physical media, baby. And then I was like,
I don't think you had actually confirmed this with me until this very moment. Like, I think I've been hearing whisperings of it around the house between you and Brooke.
UHD.
Yeah. But this is the first time you're actually confirming
Dolby Vision.
You're going back to physical media. You fucking
HDR.
bitch. You fucking crazy bitch. Your whole your life, in 2 or 3 years, you're going to have a manic cycle and be like, you know what? Fuck any media. I'm cutting movies out entirely.
Yeah. I own very little of the things that I owned as a teenager for that very reason. And it makes me sad because I've just like had these repeated times of mental illness of just like discarding huge swaths of my stuff.
Yeah.
But you, when I was ripping all those discs, said to me, don't throw away the discs. If you don't want the cases, get rid of the cases, but keep the discs. So I still have every disc I've ever bought.
That's the smartest thing I've ever said to you.
Yes, because it means I still have all of that in this hard pivot.
Glad. I'm having a bit of a health crisis, and this has been my life for the last 4 or 5 weeks. In that I went on a really nice trip with my fiancé.
Oh.
And then I got back and I got sick with like a fever for 2 weeks, a UTI, and now I have a shoulder pain. And as of tonight, I have found out, and I went for a very long walk and cry afterwards, that they think that the shoulder pain is just my autoimmune issues flaring up again, my undiagnosed, potentially lupus autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
And that's just a big bummer because I don't want to be in and out of hospital all month getting blood taken for a disease they can't diagnose.
At least you're a writer.
That's true.
Like if you get diagnosed with something that means you have to be at home a lot, like at least you're a writer.
At least I can tell my story to the masses.
That's
really beautiful, sexy, hot blonde girl dies early at age 26 from undiagnosed autoimmune disorder. You're laughing at my death?
Yeah.
Michelle, what if I die of lupus? Would you miss me if I died, Michelle?
Yeah, I'd be devastated. I miss you when we don't talk much for a couple days. I miss you a lot. I would be absolutely devastated if you died.
Aw, but for how long?
Oh, at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, that makes
Minimum
sense.
2 weeks.
Minimum 2 weeks. Max 2.5 weeks.
No way to tell. No way to tell.
I don't want to answer that question.
I'm not. I am an American citizen, and I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
In Australia, we don't have a Bill of Rights, so I just.
We're in Australia?
I plead not guilty.
Oh my god.
Speaking of Australia, though, this week we watched Kangaroo Jack.
Speaking of Australia and Americans.
Yeah.
The confluence of cultures.
The nexus of the confluence of cultures.
The Y chromosome of the interconnected soup of species. I can't even begin.
Wrapped in an enigma. This is a movie that is in some ways very personal to me. I've watched this movie as I've said before about some of the other ones at least 50 times, but actually this one I've probably watched closer to 100 times.
You're a Kangaroo Jack expert. We have been waiting for this bad. This is a momentous occasion. Hey, cheers! Let's raise our teas and in admiration for this absolute fuckfest of a film. Oh.
Yeah, and it is wild. Like every time I watch it, I'm immediately struck. Like whenever I go into it, I'm like, I know it's bad, right? Obviously. And then when I watch it, I'm immediately struck by the simultaneous thought of this is better than I remember and this is worse than I remember.
Yeah.
This movie exists simultaneously in your brain as fun and okay and bad and not worth your time.
Yeah.
Like, it does something. It creates this vortex. You know when they explain black holes, how they explain black holes in Interstellar, where he's like, well, it's a hole in 3-dimensional space. Here, if I make a line and I put a hole here and then fold them together, then you can travel through it. That's what this movie is. It's a hole in your brain that bridges quality and lack of quality.
It's that really cool Christopher Nolan scene.
Yeah.
100%. First time I watched it, you played it for us at Bad Movie Night.
Yes.
And it really rocked my world. There's a very distinct visual aesthetic of this film, which is a lot of red dirt.
A lot of red dirt.
And a big kangaroo in a red jacket rapping over Jerry O'Connell. Jerry O'Connell always astounds me when I see him in anything because I mean, in this he's a terrible actor. I've never really seen him be very good in anything except as Vern in Stand By Me, a chubby little 10-year-old playing Verno. I loved Stand By Me, and I remember reading, like, I loved Vern. He was like a little dorky, chubby Like he was like the overweight, uncool one. And then I remember as a kid reading on IMDb that Jerry O'Connell had been named the sexiest man alive of 2004. And it blew. That is a fact that is glued into my mind.
The year after this is 2003.
Yeah. He really like chiseled up. He had the most intense glow up I could ever imagine, from Vern to Charlie and Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jerry O'Connell does let this movie down. Every time I see Jerry O'Connell, I think of the story that the improviser / comedian Jeff Davis once told about how, certainly when he was a kid, because he was an actor as a kid as well, he would always be brought in and his role would always go to Jerry O'Connell. Like he
does look very similar.
He started to realize that he was being brought in to get Jerry O'Connell.
So they'd be like, we've got this great guy, Jeff Davis. He's on standby, and Jerry's like, all right.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine being the person used to twist someone else's arm? That sucks.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would suck. I've never.
Yeah, you haven't.
No.
Why are you crying?
No one's ever used me to.
Like full streams of tears running down your face.
It's just because
you're ruining your tea.
It's because it's onion tea. It doesn't matter.
It's definitely. I made that tea for you.
Yeah.
That is a peppermint tea.
Yeah, peppery onions. Minty onion.
God, get her out of here. Got another defective Michelle.
Get your fucking hands off me.
Get her out of here.
God damn it!
Restrain her.
And then,
all right, get in the other
and
Michelle.
That's me poking other eyes. Oh, the other Michelle. Hello, I'm Michelle too.
Is this Michelle straight out of the box?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Michelle, but uncorrupted.
So yeah, who broke you down? Who corrupted? It was me, wasn't it?
Actually, we have a saying around this household, and this isn't a joke. This is a real thing we've said before. I'm the poison. Referring to me.
It is true. You taint and you corrupt.
Oh, come on. Don't agree with me.
Silly ways.
Don't agree with me.
With your buffoonery.
I have a particularly infectious kind of buffoonery.
You do.
Thank you. Yeah, let me just start to get into the overview.
Yeah, get into it and tell me everything.
So as always, like before I get into the overview proper, here's some key details. The director of this movie is David McNally. David McNally has 2 feature film directorial credits.
Fuck.
Coyote Ugly.
Don't know anything about that, but it sounds bad.
Oh, no, it's a famous... It's pretty famous and like both it's a cult movie, so it's like not well regarded and well regarded at the same time.
Scratch that. Sounds great, because I know a lot about movies and I'm super smart.
Brooke really likes it and also says it's a bad movie, so
okay.
I haven't seen it. So Coyote Ugly and Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah, okay.
And that's it.
There's definitely an animal theme going on here. Animals in the desert is really what his niche is.
The Coyote Ugly is a strip club.
Well, it's misleading, all right? So it gets, -2 points for that. I haven't even seen it yet.
So it stars Jerry O'Connell, Anthony Anderson, Estella Warren in her second appearance on this list.
I was going to say, she was that chick in Driven.
In Driven.
Yeah.
Which we never brought up that Sylvester Stallone was on there twice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Estella Warren's second time. And notably as well, Christopher Walken and Michael Shannon in one of his earliest roles.
Yeah, I love Michael Shannon. He has such a distinct face. He's got a great villainous face.
This was for a long time my main point of reference for Michael Shannon.
Fair. Mine was his cameo for 2 seconds in Groundhog Day right at the end.
Oh yeah, he is in that.
He's this tall, lanky dude just dancing with this girl. But I find it really jarring in this film to watch Bill Hunter be in the same film as Christopher Walken, essentially. They don't share scenes, but they are in a film together.
By the way, I'll come back to it, but I read this whole interview with Jerry O'Connell, and he was talking about how, like, on set, everyone was, like, intimidated by Christopher Walken because of how just, like, famous and talented he is. Everyone except Michael Shannon, who would try and meet him at his level. and everyone knew that Michael Shannon had what it took.
I love that.
I love that so much.
He does have what it takes.
Yes, he is an incredible actor.
He really is. He's such a standout in everything. He's got like a really, I think he's got a very distinct face. He's very intense as a performer.
Oh, yeah.
He never lets
He's
you
actually
down.
good in this. I think he does a really good job.
Yeah. He even has a tacky line where they're like, he lands there to go track down. He's the villain. He's tracking down Charlie in the outback, which you're about to tell us about. But I think someone goes there being like, "Hello, mate. Oh, you guys need guns. What are you, hunters?" And he's like, "Yes, we're hunters." And it's a shit line, but you're still like, no, he pulled it off.
No, he totally nails that specific line. Also, very American. I can tell it's written by Americans that they think they can ask an Australian where to buy guns in Sydney, and the Australian won't go, I don't know, nowhere.
Did you not hear about the Port Arthur massacre 6 years ago, mate?
Yeah, it would have been
That had
fresh.
just happened, yeah. What the fuck?
Okay, into the overview. When two lifelong friends, Charlie Carbone and Louis Booker, accidentally cross Charlie's stepfather, a prominent mafioso named Sal, they are sent to Australia to deliver $50,000 to a man named Mr. Smith out in Coober Pedy. On the way, they accidentally run over a kangaroo. Thinking it's both dead and looks like a mafia man they know named Jacky Legs, they don it with Lewis's jacket and pose for photos. However, the roo revives and jumps off with the 50 grand in the jacket pocket. Mr. Smith immediately starts threatening Lewis for not bringing him the money, a fact that Lewis tries to keep from Charlie. Meanwhile, Sal gets wind that they've lost the money and sends his enforcer Frankie to track them down and kill them. The pair try and find the kangaroo while outpacing Mr. Smith, hiring a plane and then enlisting the help of local wildlife expert Jesse. However, their efforts are in vain and Mr. Smith captures them. While making their escape, Frankie arrives and reveals he is there to kill them. The kangaroo appears, causing a fistfight as the trio race off to go get him, and Frankie chases after them in turn. The chase ends with Lewis grabbing the money and being rescued after falling off a cliff. An exhausted Frankie reveals to them that Sal had hired Mr. Smith to execute them before attempting to do so himself. The police arrive and arrest Frankie. They say their goodbyes to Kangaroo Jack and head back to Brooklyn.
What a movie.
Yeah, here's the thing about this movie. I feel like there's an okay movie inside of it. You know?
At the beating core.
Because there's parts of this movie while watching it last night with Brooke, my girlfriend.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah, I never bring her up.
Dude. Yeah, never. Top. Give me some skin.
No, we can't
Come all the way here to give me some skin.
We can't do that. For everyone at home, Abby is lying on the couch because of her back problems.
I'm sick and in pain. I'm a little bit lame. Not in a problematic sense. It's literal.
Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah. Yeah, like there were parts where I'm like, that's actually a solid joke. This would work. One of the things I think is really key in this movie is the fucking music is an energy killer. Right? Like, there's this one track they reuse over and over again, and it happens every time the kangaroo appears, which is the
hip hop track.
Ding, 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 ding. And that's it. Like, that's that music.
It's because he's in his cool red hoodie given to him by Anthony Anderson's character.
But it's an energy killer. Every single time it begins, all the pacing goes out the window. There were times in the movie that I'm like, this is a good scene, and then instead of it being a punchline, that music starts, and it feels like we're just sitting in a nether space of film. Yeah. And I'm like, with different music, this actually could work.
I mean, you can't just blame the music. There's so many things in this film that are a vibe killer. Like every time Jerry O'Connell opens his big chiseled mouth.
Yeah. I don't know how to articulate it other than like, I don't think Jerry O'Connell... At first I was like, Jerry O'Connell is letting this movie down. And then I rethought it. I was like...
This film let Jerry O'Connell down, man.
I was like, Jerry O'Connell's not doing a bad job. He's doing a good job at playing a particular archetype of character that I don't like. And that's the like really audience winky white guy. Like there was one point, Anthony Anderson, who's fucking killing it, is trying to be like, oh man, Charlie, we should go out and get this plane. And then he goes, how are we gonna do that?
I literally was thinking about the exact same thing. Yeah, sure. We'll just go find a chartered plane in the middle of nowhere. Genius idea.
Yeah, it's always like the head off to the side. You see him crane his neck so much in this movie.
He's got a big neck to crane.
And just always a little Lewis, it's a kangaroo.
Keep going.
My stepfather.
Keep going.
$50,000.
It's almost physically painful to watch.
Out in the desert. How I don't think.
Cry for me. Cry for me.
No, please let me free. I just wanted to live. No.
Well, that was Kangaroo Jack. What are we watching next week? Rotten Husk of Michelle.
Watching.
It hurts to laugh. You're not allowed.
That's bad news for this podcast.
It's a very serious podcast, actually.
Well, then we're doing a very
About
bad job.
Films. Where were we?
We were
Jerry
anyway.
O'Connell being a winky white man.
Yeah.
Winky sounds like a slur for white men, so we should cut that out. But what we're saying is Jerry O'Connell is a winky. And anyone that tries to cancel us for saying that, go right ahead. We are proud of our values. MRA for life?
What?
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 Michelle rights activist.
Oh,
Yeah.
just my rights.
Yeah.
Well, all rights matter.
Specifically, all Michelle's rights matters.
Yeah. Wait, so it's not even just me, it's just every Michelle?
No, it's just you.
Aw. What rights of mine are you fighting for?
This is crazy. What do you
my
mean?
God.
I'm fighting for your right to convert your entire DVD collection from a non-physical collection to a physical collection, even though you'll probably change your mind in 2 months.
Get out of my life.
Make me.
You have no right to comment over how I choose to live. All I want is some goddamn peace.
You want peace,
I want
or do you want chaos? Because all I can see around you is the crumbling ruins of a once wise woman.
I know that I have waged many wars in the name of peace.
And yet you have not won many wars.
Sometimes winning the war is not how you achieve your goal.
And sometimes losing a war is pretty shit.
I know, I
I
agree.
know, I've had a really tough time of it actually recently.
Sometimes
because-
you...
Can I just finish?
No,
what
I'm
I
just
was-
saying
no,
sometimes...
Can I please?
No, I'm just trying to
That's
say...
another war lost.
I'm just trying to say sometimes you lose the war, but you win the mega war.
You know, I'm really sick of you speaking over me.
Well, you need to lose this war.
I've lost every war with you.
Yeah, but you might still win the mega war.
What mega war? I wasn't listening.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying so hard.
They're just terrible.
I'm losing this war. And then, hey, y'all ever heard of battles? What? We've never heard one layer lower. Obviously, a huge prominent part of this movie for every Australian is what the fuck do American screenwriters think of Australia?
Well, they think that all of us, all the women are bar wenches that talk about dunnies,
Yeah.
the long drop, and all the men are absolute alcoholics that, I mean, they're not wrong.
There's no sense of physical space. They arrive in Sydney on the East Coast and then drive for what seems like 2 hours, and then they're in Cuba Pedy. No, they're not actually. They're in Alice Springs.
They drive from Sydney. Why not fly from Sydney to Alice? Don't do that trip.
Yeah, it is thousands of kilometers, miles, thousands of kilometers away. Days travel.
And there isn't very much to see. I don't feel like there's enough. This is a whole different conversation, but I feel like the outback for me isn't very exciting. I need to see more. Wide, flat surfaces scare me.
But also, like, Alice Springs isn't even close to Cuba Pedy.
Where's Cuba Pedy?
Cuba Pedy's in South Australia.
Yeah.
In, like, the middle-ish bit of South Australia. Alice Springs is in the Northern Territory.
Right.
Full, like, whole day, maybe more drive.
That's bizarre.
They're not close to each other. Yeah. Also, I love the way Michael Shannon in the beginning hands them, like, the envelope and is like, I need you to take this money. You're going to go find a man named Mr. Smith in a place called Coober Pedy.
Coober Pedy.
It's just something about the way he's like making it sound so mystical and exotic. And I'm like, Coober Pedy.
I love any American trying to pronounce Australian names. Like, I love the American podcast, The Dollop. And I fucking love Dave Anthony being like, a man was swimming in a Coogee Beach, and everyone's like, Coogee. And I really sympathize with him because every time he's like, why the fuck isn't it spelt like that? But you're just not an Australian, mate.
Well, it's the same thing as in the US. They have a lot of places named after native names. We have a lot of places named after Indigenous names.
And the thing is, like,
not enough.
I understand what he's saying in that it's like not necessarily spelt that way, but we understand. An Australian would look at that word not having ever been to Coogee or hearing of it, and being able to say, yeah, it's called Coogee.
Yeah. I know I'm white, but it does bother me. We have places like Coogee or Narrowena or Turramurra or Coober Pedy, and yet we still call the states like New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria. Fucking get on it. Name them. Rename them. We should rename every fucking state.
You and me. We should. You're right.
And all their fucking capital cities.
I think that you're so right, Michelle. I think I've been waiting for you to say this. Okay. I think New South Wales.
Everyone's been waiting.
Yeah. I think New South Wales should be called the Big Bucket.
It's not the angle I was going for.
Yeah.
I was going for...
Feedback noted.
I'm trying to talk about Kangaroo. There's so much to this movie to talk about. We can't do this. Yeah, just what they think of Australia is absolutely wild. Like, everyone has these crazy distinct accents. Although I love how, like, they're out in the bush and they're like, oh, here's this wildlife foundation. An American. They even say that. It's like, an American. And it's a Stella Warren.
Yeah.
Which, why bother? Why bother? Why not just
why not get an Australian blonde? There's so many Australian blonde actresses.
Yeah, there's so many.
Is it because, like, he could never fall in love with an Australian? It's just too many worlds apart.
What? It's still
he can only
white
relate
blonde
to an
woman.
American lady. Nah, she's relatable because she's American. I wouldn't be able to get behind it if she wasn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
But then Crocodile Dundee came along 10 years earlier and really threw a spanner in the works.
It's being closer to like 20.
What?
Well, Crocodile Dundee didn't come out in 93.
Fuck.
It came out in the 80s, didn't it?
I have no idea, actually.
Oh, I gotta cut this. This is just us not knowing something. That's not fun. But there's parts. What gets me about this movie, there's parts of it that I think work. Like, some of the gags work. Christopher Walken has this thing of, like, he has this running thing of using the wrong word, which I think could be funny. There's a bit in an earlier scene where he's talking about how he's disappointed. It's like, your disappointments are a plethora to me, anathema to me. And like and then later we see him and he's like listening to a tape of like the definition of a word.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need, if you had a third, like that would be, it could be like a fun character trait.
They're so close to some genuinely good jokes. They did really love to go back to jokes about the potential of them being homosexuals with one another. Like, the lead two friends. Where there's that bit where he's like, oh my God, put your hand down my crotch because he's got an idea and a way to get out of being captured.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, we all have those urges, sometimes. And it's just
that guy's bi.
That guy is so bi.
Like,
but also, like, I'm really glad we're kind of phased out of the era of cinema where every joke between two men was about the possibility that one of them was gay for the other.
Yeah, it was I mean, I know it was way earlier than the 2000s, but I feel like the 2000s was like where they got to the era of like, we're okay enough with gay people that the joke isn't that would make me throw up or violent, but the joke is still, I don't want to be gay.
Yeah, and
You
I'd
know?
feel uncomfortable if you actually were into me.
Yeah. Gayness is okay until it's actually in my life.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, like, they do a really weird... I was trying to quantify it. I'm like, is it good or bad? Is it homophobic, or is it actually trying to be not toxic undue toxic masculinity of how Charlie is a hairdresser?
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, there's not a bit, like, when we see him as a kid, it's not like he's really effeminate, and then later he's like, I became a hairstylist, and we're like, obviously. Like, he's also, when we see him in the salon, which, by the way, he mentions that Sal's men show up and take 80% of the profits. That salon is fucking huge. He runs that on 20% of the profits. That place would be making bank. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. It's bizarre though, because it's his mum's salon that Sal still funds. So it's like they're taking the profits, but they're also helping them fund it anyway.
Well, Sal bought it for Charlie.
I thought he bought it for Charlie's mum, and Charlie worked there with his mum.
Maybe...
I thought that's what they said at the beginning.
I thought it was that he bought
Michelle,
it for...
you've watched this film 100 times. How can you not know?
I always thought it was Charlie's salon.
You're the KJ expert, all right? What the fuck?
Point being, when we see him in the salon, it's not like he's doing anything like overtly like effeminate. And I'm not saying feminine, which is an important distinction. He's not being, he's not doing the limp wrist. He's not doing a lisp or any of that. He's just being a guy.
Yeah, he's not even that necessarily masculine either.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then throughout the movie, it's not a recurring joke about his masculinity outside of other people's potential theoretical judgment of him being a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Including right up until the film's climax, where Mr. Smith, is confronting him, a real Wolf Creek type, who's like, oh, Charlie's got a gun pointed at him. And then Mr. Smith is like, you ever held a gun before, Charlie? No. You ever killed before, Charlie? No. What makes you think that you're so brave, Charlie? And then track in chick, I'm a hairdresser, and it's not like a gag, it's like this emotional beat. I don't know what it is.
He remembers who he is.
It's like
He was watching Mr. Smith's split ends flutter in the breeze, and it reminded him of where he came from. His roots, if you will. Am I right? Up top,
nice,
up top,
love
up
it,
top,
love
up
it. We're
top.
so much further away from each other than normal.
You fucking hate me. You fucking hate
I
me.
never said I didn't. Yeah, and it's like I don't think it's as positive as it wants to be, but I actually think it's trying to be positive and like promote. I don't know. This movie has a lot of things in it that are not cool
Yeah.
and weird and creepy and a little racist or a little sexist or a little homophobic because it's a comedy from the 2000s. But that thread line, I'm like, I cannot quantify it. I think it's trying earnestly and it's just weird.
Do you stay up all night pondering the intricacies of that thread in Kangaroo Jack?
I lie awake.
What the fuck was that? Was it homophobic?
Was it homophobic?
Or
I mean,
was it undoing?
no one ever even says that he's gay because he's a hairdresser. People assume it would question, but he never questions it. He never even doubts it. He doesn't seem to be embarrassed by it at all.
No, I agree. It's a gallant thing to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never get the answer that you want, and I think you need to leave this quest.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that Kangaroo Jack dwells so deeply in the crevasses of your mind.
I think this movie earns it, despite the fact that the movie opens with this whole movie has these transitions that are like, it's like scale in 400% for 4 frames and then flash to white and then the next shot is already scaled in and then scale it back out after 4 frames whilst having like a camera click thing. It goes, whoosh, and then shot of this kid on the beach, and it literally goes, that's me. And I'm like, God, no.
This film is deeply saturated. Like, the color grading is insane.
I thought I hadn't set my TV up right.
Yeah,
my new TV.
Same. The reds are an assault on the eyes. Like, the color of the earth is barbaric.
Upsetting to look at.
Yeah. A visual stew of mess.
Deeply threatening.
Deeply foreboding.
As a movie, it's threatening.
Kangaroo Jack tried to metaphorically pull a knife on me today. I got mugged in an alleyway by Kangaroo Jack.
Which, by the way, he does that's me again at the end. In the end, there's a whole bit where it's a little in the future. He's sold these berries as a shampoo, and now he's married Jessie. And then it sees him, and then the voiceover goes, that's me. I can't.
It's called Bookends. You wouldn't get it, actually. It's a screenwriting thing. It's about the symmetry of the bookend. It's actually quite intricate that they've done that. Very smart. It's like a reflection of the first. You wouldn't get it. It's like, you know how he said you actually wouldn't get it. I'm not even sure it's worth explaining.
I don't
I'll
get
try.
it. I'm actually lost.
In the first scene, he says, that's
No,
me.
I'm lost. I don't get. Whoa.
I know it.
Speak English, Doc.
I speak Greek, not geek, in the words of Rip Torn from Zoom. I've learned so much in this podcast.
Which, by the way, in that final scene, there's a point where Lewis runs, they're like having this romantic moment, and then Lewis runs and jumps off of one level on this giant mega yacht they're on into a very small pool. One person.
It's a hot tub.
Waist height.
He would have broken his goddamn legs.
No, but here's the thing. That's what I always thought. He definitely broke his legs. And then we saw the wide, and you go, oh, he's not actually that high up. The notable thing is actually, it's a really long distance.
What a Chad.
That's like he fully vaults from that second level over this like overhang over them, completely over them, and one of them is standing upright.
Yeah.
Across even more of the deck to get into this pool.
King of the long jump.
Yeah, there's a part of his backstory that we didn't see, that he's an Olympic long jumper. I mean, according to the tagline, he's an aspiring musician, which is never in the movie.
No, he has no goals except to get the money back.
He has no
with
goals.
Charlie. I wanted to chat about the lady.
Oh, yeah.
The buxom blonde.
Yeah.
In that, again, I don't understand why they got an American instead of just getting an Australian woman to play the blonde lead role that is a wildlife conservationist.
Yeah.
That actress, for me, has terrible energy.
Yes.
And I refuse to elaborate. But I didn't like her in Drive, and I really didn't like her in this. Driven.
The idea that it was Drive is really funny to me.
Why?
Because Drive is the critically acclaimed movie starring Ryan Gosling.
Right. I bet she accidentally gets it mixed up all the time when she's going for job roles. And I was in Drive. I thought it was Driven. Oh, no, it was Driven. Whoops.
Yeah, people are still interviewing Estella Warren for an acting job in 2021.
Yeah, where did she go?
Multiple DUIs and then domestic abuse charges is where she went.
I remember that. I think we talked about that in the Driven episode. She is a bad energy.
Bad energy.
Bad vibes. That's probably why the whole time I was sitting there being like, why is she rubbing me all kinds of wrong ways?
Bad vibes in this movie. Yeah, and she also, like, it's not like she's killing it either. Like, she's not doing a good job.
She's really not. Her presence in the film is bizarre. They just needed a white blonde lead for the poster.
Yeah.
And the waterfall scene really...
Oh my God.
She gets her first kiss with Jerry O'Connell in the waterfall scene where she's like, I'm not interested in you, all right? If you kissed me right now, it wouldn't make any kind of... And then he kisses her and they pull away and she's like, difference. And then she tells him how, like, it didn't do anything for her and how he doesn't care. And he's like, yeah, me neither. And they do this back and forth where they keep kissing. And then he stops and he's like, I want you to know this is the most sensual experience I've ever had.
Yeah, not romantic, sensual.
If a man said that to me, I'd be like, well, time for me to hop on the train home. This is my night done.
If someone just kissed me and said, this is the most sensual experience of my life, I'd be like, oh, why?
Whereas I'd be like, that checks out. I am very sensual.
Whereas I'm not very sensual.
No, it's not.
I'm all visual. What you see is what you get, and prepare to be disappointed. One thing I do like about Estella Warren, though, is that, like, the climax of the movie actually has this really nice moment, because you think for a little bit, oh, it's going to be about this romance between Charlie and Jesse, but the climax is almost entirely about, like, Charlie and Lewis. And
it's about friendship, man.
yeah, after he saves him, Lewis is like...
Sorry, you wouldn't get it. This is a screenwriter thing. It's called, like, a theme.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just break it down.
Meanwhile, in the edit, I'm like, push the clippies together. What's a theme? I do not understand what's happening.
Push the clippies together.
These images look pretty next to each
You're
other.
not allowed
Fuck
to
you,
make
Abigail.
Me laugh. It hurts. So a theme, and
Fuck you.
Let me explain friendship to you first of all, because you clearly don't fucking get it. We also have to bring up, it's a must, the infamous scene where Charlie is experiencing, like, he's hallucinating because he's, like, stuck in the desert.
Yes.
And he hallucinates Jack over him rapping.
Yes.
That scene fucked me up. I realized that in my YouTube search history from, like, 2 or 3 years ago when you first showed this to me, I had typed in Kangaroo Jack song what the fuck ? That's what I found in my search history today.
Yeah.
When also looking up Kangaroo Jack. That scene, it's like nothing else I've ever seen. That's the low point of modern cinema.
I, like a lot of children, had that as my... what I thought was Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. I didn't know it was its own song for a long time because I was a child.
So he's just singing Rapper's Delight?
Yeah.
I thought he was singing his own take on it for some reason.
Well, he interjects his own lines.
Yeah.
Like, he starts and he's like, said a hip, hop, a hippie to the hip, hip, hop, don't stop the rock to the bang, bang, boogie, up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to be. And then he interjects his own line going, now I am Jacky Legs.
I knew you'd
and
know
I'm
the
here
lines.
to say hello to the black, to the white. And then it sort of fades out because then we get the Christopher Walken kangaroo going, you're a disappointment, Charlie. I'm not sure about what you're doing.
You really know this film far too intimately.
And then the Anthony Anderson kangaroo comes in and starts going, yeah, what are you doing? Oh my God, yeah. And then they start calling him chicken blood because that's something Sal says at the beginning. And then you get the best part of the scene, which is the three of them, the Christopher Walken one, the Anthony Anderson one, and then the Kangaroo Jack one, all going, yeah, chicken blood, chicken blood, chicken blood. They particularly do that thing where it's blah instead of blah. Chicken blood, chicken blood, chicken blood. It's a great scene. I don't know what your problem is with
Honest question. Do you think that your constant exposure to this film stunted you in any way?
Well, I'm very tall, so I don't think so.
Question answered. It does explain why every night I hear you go to bed and say, chicken blood, chicken blood.
Chicken blood. I do mad stunts all the time. I don't think I was stunted. I think I'm
these
stunty.
mad stunts,
Look at these
bruh.
mad stunts.
I get home, you've like configured a ramp in the living room. You're on a little fucking bicycle at the top of it.
I made
Record
this out of optical discs.
And this is totally badass. Welcome to my world.
Okay, so that scene is obviously a cinematic tragedy, but I want to use it to veer into a point I wanted to say that'll lead into the trivia, because this can't be a piece of trivia. It's its whole own thing.
Okay.
This movie was not always Kangaroo Jack.
What do you mean?
This movie was originally a MA or R-rated
Sex romp.
mafia comedy called Down and Under, which I actually think is a great title.
It's a great title.
Down and Under, excellent title. The kangaroo was in 2 scenes where he runs away and the climax.
Hang on.
And that's it.
Hang on. Which executive producer was like, it's a bit grim.
Jerry Bruckheimer.
I like the kangaroo. Bring him back.
We know exactly which one. It's Jerry
Holy
Bruckheimer.
shit.
Who, at this era, I don't think kids would understand. I barely understand being too young at the time to really process it. But Jerry Bruckheimer was his own box office draw. Like, I can't think of another producer who had the name recognition of Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
Like, no one went to go see a Scott Rudin
what's
film.
he known for? Like,
Well, because he would produce a lot of like the big action movies of the time.
like what?
A lot of the stuff by Michael Bay. I can look
Okay.
up some of the Jerry Bruckheimer stuff.
Because like you see Bruckheimer, it's such a distinct name. You do remember it.
Well,
Even
and
when I
he-
saw Bruckheimer, I was like, I know he's a famous Hollywood producer, but I would never be able to tell you what he's done.
Top Gun, The
Oh.
Rock, Con Air, Armageddon, Enemy of the State, Black Hawk Down, Pearl Harbor, Beverly Hills Cop, Bad Boys, Pirates of the Caribbean, National Treasure,
National Treasure.
stuff like
That
that.
film is so good.
So you can see, like, he actually is, like, became his own box office thing in this, like, early 2000s era.
Yeah, fascinating. So it was Jerry Bruckheimer that was like, give me more of that sweet, sweet roux.
So what it was, some sources said it was at a script point, but other sources who were on it said that they made the movie, which had, like, more swearing, sex, violence.
They filmed it?
They filmed it, and at test screenings, it wasn't quite landing the way they wanted to for the box office return they wanted.
Yeah.
And but the Kangaroo tested very positively. So Bruckheimer said, let's respin this as like a family movie about a kangaroo. And so they refilmed a bunch of stuff, and you can see some of the reshoots. They replaced the animatronic kangaroo with a CG kangaroo. They added in all those fucking, you know, they have those tiny little interstitial scenes with the kangaroo, and they all suck, and
Yeah.
there's such an energy drag on the film.
Yeah.
Those are all added in. That whole middle bit, that's why all the shots of Charlie are this one shot on a desert. You can see so many of these reshoots and added in bits in it. And so, like, a lot of the editing style that is so distinct comes from trying to rework the film as a fun family adventure. And that's why the trailers always focused heavily on that scene where he's rapping.
So wild.
Yeah.
So what was like the original premise? It was meant to be like a grim mafia film.
Well, no, not grim. Still a comedy.
Still a comedy.
Think of the movie up until Kangaroo Jack is introduced, because a criticism of the movie is it's called Kangaroo Jack, and the kangaroo isn't in until like 35 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But think of the first act, but with like a slightly different paced edit. These two friends, double cross a mafia guy who sends them on a mission to Australia to their own execution.
Right.
But accidentally they lose the money to a kangaroo. That's
Fascinating.
that's not a bad premise for a movie. If that's the movie. If the movie is to a charming, lovable kangaroo, like, then it becomes dumb.
Yeah.
Then it becomes bad, right? I feel like if the movie, because this movie was made for 60 million, I feel like if it was 30 million, the original script could have been like a 7 out of 10 and made a decent return. Because it was 60, I think they wanted more.
Shit.
You know? Yeah. And on that note, do you want to hear some trivia?
Fuck yeah.
IMDb trivia.
So this is a quote from a Vice article by Justin Caffia in which he interviews Jerry O'Connell about Kangaroo Jack. And this is from 2017, so years later. So Justin said, at what point, if ever, did you have a sense that the project had gone off the rails? And Jerry O'Connell said, so we made the film. They immediately tested it and it didn't do well. I thought, what a bummer. This was supposed to be my big Bruckheimer starring film. I guess the fat kid from Stand By Me will have to figure out another way to make it.
Oh my god.
Which I thought was such a tragic quote.
Oh, the fat kid from Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry.
And then a while later, someone called me up and said, I guess they're going to make this into a kid's movie and really heavily animate the kangaroo. In entertainment, everything changes, and you can't hold on to your ideas of what something is because hundreds of other people are working on it. If you read a script and think, this is how it's going to be, it's never going to be that way. I remember my representation was like, you didn't get into this to be in a kid's movie, and being all concerned. But to be honest, I didn't really care. I'm still very good friends with Mr. Bruckheimer, but Jerry also told me to never read reviews on it, so I don't know how it was regarded by the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he expressed great alarm when the interviewer pointed out that it has 8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
it's not uncommon for just all these terrible films to just be the product of studio interference. You
Yeah.
know? Someone has a vision, someone destroys that vision. The greatest example was our episode on the island of Dr. Moreau. Richard Stanley had this incredible vision for his favorite novel as a kid, and it got utterly destroyed by Frankenheimer,
Yeah.
the Hollywood director.
I also love just like his zen response to
There's hundreds of people working on it.
yeah, and that is true. Like that's the whole thing. In a book is meant to have like a perfect manuscript or whatever, but a script is never representative of a finished product. So
Yeah.
it will always change.
Yeah.
No matter how good the script is or no matter how bad the script is. It will always change. And you can't cling on to it.
Yeah. That's advice I don't want to hear, but should hear.
Yes. I know you are all about the sanctity of the script, but you're making a movie.
All y'all fuck it up.
Here's two similar pieces of trivia. So, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Daniel Stern were considered for the role of Frankie Lombardo.
Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci were the villains in the original Home Alone
Yeah.
together.
Also,
They're
like,
they're both so good. It could be one or the other.
clearly they were considered for the role before they aged the character down for Michael Shannon.
Yeah, although Daniel Stern's not that much older or younger than
Oh, he just
Michael
has
Shannon. Joe
old man
Pesci is
energy.
old. Joe Pesci has old man energy.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. Can you imagine De Niro and Walken being in this train wreck?
Hey. Right?
Do it again.
You think I'm funny?
Thought that was funny. Shocking.
And then similarly, this was I couldn't find anything else to corroborate this, and it sounds fucking insane. George Clooney, Leonardo DiCaprio, Hugh Jackman, Sylvester Stallone, John Goodman, Nicolas Cage, Ben Stiller, Billy Crystal, Ray Romano, and Scott Bakula
I'm so scared of what you're about to tell me.
were all considered for the role of Charlie Carbone.
No.
Which, what a incredible range of incredibly famous people. None of them feel like a Charlie, really. But also considered, in this case, must mean they said no, because how many people do you get through before your $60 million movie stars Jerry O'Connell in 2003?
So, regardless of what was edited when, it's good to know the initial script wasn't good anyway.
I think it
so many
sounds like
actors turned it down.
Jerry
Sounds like a
O'Connell
turd of a
and
project.
Anthony Anderson, I could find quotes of both of them saying the original script was funny.
Yeah, but that's them saying it.
Anthony
Jerry-
Anderson's really funny. Him in Blackish is like a real highlight. Like he's a funny guy.
Is he a good guy?
Yeah, I think I haven't heard anything bad about him, and I've enjoyed him on screen and seen him support good causes. So
All right.
I don't know. Hey, if anyone knows something about Anthony Anderson, then I'm really sorry.
Man, we should wiki him before we claim he's a good guy.
We do. I didn't claim he's a good guy, and we do so much research for
No,
this. I
yeah.
can't look up every.
No, I understand.
This is actually a piece of trivia that I wrote because I read through every single goof and continuity error on IMDb, and this wasn't there, and I noticed this.
Oh, I'm so ready. This isn't a Michelle original. Did you actually put it on IMDb?
No, I should have
You
though.
witch.
In the film's denouement, when they meet Kangaroo Jack's family, so like his quote unquote wife comes out, as well as like a small kangaroo that's clearly his child. So earlier in the movie, when he first like revives, he kicks Charlie and Charlie falls back onto the road. In this, they're just on a general like plains area, and then he goes up to the kid kangaroo, and then the kid jumps up and kicks him, just like earlier. When he kicks him, the shot of Charlie being kicked is very clearly reused from earlier in the film, given the road we see behind him. It
Oh
is
my god.
an identical shot. There is no road in any other shot, and it is the same road from earlier in the movie.
The lack of care is
They
unsurprising.
reused the shot. Also, that scene has two other shots that have the most prominent green screen I've seen. You can see a fucking halo around him of green.
This film's fucking lazy. You gotta get in touch with Brockheimer directly.
The reshoots are lazy. The film was made fine.
Are you saying you're a staunch defender of the OG Kangaroo Jack?
I'm saying I release Down and Under. Release the Down and Under cut.
That's what you're slamming your fists on the table about every morning.
Release the McNally cut.
Release it. You've got a whole website set up for it.
Yeah.
ReleaseTheMcNallyCut.com. FreeKangarooJack.com. .net.org. / the Australian government.
Do you want to hear some reviews?
We.
Reviews!
One little notable thing, according to many of the reviews I read on IMDb, back in 2003, it had a rating of 2.8 and was in the bottom 100, as opposed to now it has 4.4.
What boosted it?
I guess over time people went back to it and gave it 10s.
Assholes.
But there were heaps of reviews from 2003 that were like, I can't believe this has 2.8 and is in the bottom 100.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Apparently it aged as well, like a fine wine.
This is a review titled Best One-Star Movie I've Ever Seen by Monkey Kelstar. I know, 10 stars seems excessive, but this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Top 5. I'm watching this movie as I write this. I've seen it a couple of times and I swear it gets better every time I see it. It only got 1 star out of 4, which is the worst it can possibly get. And I understand that. Really. It is not the most intelligent movie in the world. However, if you feel like kicking back, relaxing, you feel like watching a movie that doesn't provoke thought or discussion, you feel like laughing hysterically, this movie's for you. I'll admit that the entire premise of this movie is dumb, but it's funny, genuinely funny, and I love it. 10 out of 10.
How did they know I was actively trying to avoid thought and discussion?
This is a review titled This Movie is Hysterical by MS1720.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And for a long time too, 1720.
Jesus. Good luck with your recovery.
Now, I watched this movie after reading what the geniuses on here wrote about it and saw the low rating. This movie is not a 2.8 out of 10. I would give this about a 6 out of 10. Keep in mind that this is a movie with a PG rating, so they wanted to make it accessible to kids. I, being 23, still have a good grasp on that mentality. I watched this with a bunch of other college-aged kids, and man, I'll tell you, there were a lot of times when we were all laughing pretty hard.
I just don't think this person is really 23. I think this is like a 78-year-old man in denial on the internet being like, I'm 23 and we all have laughs.
I, being 23, am just as intelligent as a 12-year-old.
It's either a 78-year-old or a 10-year-old on the internet. One or the other.
This is a review titled Great Family Fun by Apalmera Squid. Well, it's a Q.
Oh.
So I don't want to just say K, you know?
I love your attention to detail.
My family and I had a wonderful night out watching this movie. The plot is perfect for the understanding of a 9 and 11-year-old. The movie has a lot of action and funny scenes. There's enough eye candy for Dad to enjoy. Brackets, Mum was overheard to say, ooh, too.
Who? Oh, what the fuck?
And the animated kangaroo provided laughs. The bad guys looked like bad guys. The good guys are the cops.
So they looked Italian. Is that what they're saying?
And the good guys are the cops. And there's just a hint of love in the outback.
Oh my god.
Plenty of comedy provided by the quote-unquote slightly overweight sidekick. Yeah, a lot of fun for all. Take your family and enjoy the film. 10 out of 10.
Ooh, from the mom.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There is. But hey, they seems like a happy family.
Yeah, I don't think they like overweight people, but here is a review that's also titled Great Family Fun
There's a trend here.
by Racerdex. It also starts almost identically. My family and I had only the day before seeing this movie. Oh, my family and I had only the day before seeing this movie. No, hang on. Oh, hang on.
4 hours later. Hang on. No, wait. Hang on.
My family and I had only
It's like you're solving a mystery, like a puzzle. Like, all right.
It's there's a lot of commas that My family and I had only the day before seeing this movie been discussing how painting critics serve only to destroy tiny gems. Like this one. It is not like it is some Oscar fare. But then again, neither were Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Better Off Dead, or Army of Darkness. This is the kind of film that perhaps only the pleas of your well-loved child could bring you to see, but you shall not be disappointed. It is not a 1 star or below 5 using the vaunted IMDb scale. I recommend it strongly. We had great fun watching it. 10 out of 10.
My favorite joke is people not knowing how to use the quotation marks.
Or below 5.
Oh my god.
It's nothing. That was these fucking people. What was your review?
I love Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah.
Is this the first, it's not even an Australian film, but is this the first film we've encountered that's been set in Australia?
I think so.
Wow, it's a bit of taste of, it's a little taste of home.
Hey, I related not a single moment to a single frame of this fucking movie.
I definitely related to the baby kangaroo kicking Charlie in the chest.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you go, girl.
It's a classic Australian story.
I think I would give this I love watching it, and it is like it's the kind of bad film that we were waiting to watch.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it the first time you showed it to me. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It has a great cast though, but it's just good camp fun bad shit. Like it's the perfect bad movie. I honestly think I enjoy it more than a Good Year, and if that's the rating we're going off of, Kangaroo Jack for me gets a 5.3.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think for me, like I said, like it has these moments in it, like some of the jokes land, some of the jokes I was like trying to visualize it without the music. And I'm like, this is actually not bad. Like there's one bit where they're walking through the desert and it's a little lame, but I'm like, but if you didn't have the music be this energy suck, this is just a fun little scene. I think the McNally cut is a 7.5 out of 10. You know,
the one that you envision in your mind.
Like one of the more mediocre Seth Rogen movies, I think.
The McNally cut.
But the movie as it is, like it has these moments that I think pull it up. And as you said, it is dumb fun. I will almost definitely watch this again in my lifetime. For a bad movie, it's a fun bad movie to rewatch.
I know this isn't my last interaction with Kangaroo Jack. For a
It's
fact.
not over, Kangaroo Jack. I also think I like it more than a Good Year, but for a very different reason. I think it's a 5.2.
Nice.
Slightly lower than yours, but 5.2.
What did I give it? I thought I gave it a 5.2.
You said 5.3.
Wow. Did I really?
You did. You really did. Already regretting it.
That was generous.
We do that a lot. We either rate the movies super, like we try really hard to make this scale make sense, and then we'll be like,
Never does.
raw ones, they're fucking 7.5.
And the next day we're like, that was a bit much, wasn't it?
I gave Ultraviolet a 7.5. What the fuck did I do? What have I done?
This show is corrupting our brains, Michelle. It's not our fault. We're doing what we can.
Well, that was Kangaroo Jack. You can follow us on social media, on Twitter at RateDescendPod, on TikTok at RatingDescending, or email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com.
Or you can find us under our personal accounts. I am Abigail J. Ward on Insta.
And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Michelle.St. And at some point, I'll probably be on something else. Who knows? I'm not a fucking scientist.
And don't forget to drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really makes one hell of a difference.
What are we watching next week, Abigail?
Next week, my dear, dear Michelle,
Yeah.
we are watching Jason X.
He's back.
He's back. The boy is back. And
The
he's
boy is
gargling
back.
water.
Oh, this goggly water boy's
Boys
back.
are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Da-na-na-na.